Yo, this video needs no introduction. It might ruffle a few people's feathers. You might hate what you see. You might like what you see. You might be disappointed, but let's go ahead and see what this is all about. And we'll just do a reaction to it.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my God! What the What the
Let me start by being very clear about what this video is not. This is not a political argument. This is not an immigration debate. This is not about whether you like ICE or hate ICE. If you're already locked into one side of that, nothing I say here is going to move you anyway. And I've accepted that. What I want to talk about is something that's much narrower, much more uncomfortable, and much harder to avoid. Was this self-defense? Because once you strip everything else away, the outrage, the slogans, the ideology, that's the only question that actually matters. Before we even get to the shooting, we have to deal with something people keep intentionally blurring. This woman was not passively protesting. She was not peacefully demonstrating. She was not exercising her First Amendment right from the sidewalk. She was actively interfering with the federal operation. That distinction matters. The First Amendment protects speech. It protects protests. It does not protect physically impeding law enforcement from doing their job. At the moment she began blocking them, at that moment she refused lawful command to move, she crossed from protected activity into illegal conduct. That's not a value judgment. That's just the reality of how the law works. Now, I want to be careful here because this is where people tend to think I'm being dismissive or cold. I'm not. I'm actually willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. I'm not assuming she was evil. I'm not assuming she wanted to hurt anyone. I'm not assuming she woke up that day intending to kill a cop. What I am inclined to believe is something much more human. She was stressed. She was overwhelmed. She did not want to be arrested. Anyone who's ever been in a high-stress confrontation understands this. When adrenaline spikes, your thinking narrows. You don't calmly analyze options. You don't weigh consequences. Your brain locks onto one directive, and hers, get out of here. And that's probably what was happening. She hops into her vehicle, she starts it, and she steps on the accelerator. Not slowly, not cautiously, not in a way that says, hey, let me ease forward. She floors it. Now, and this is important, that does not mean she was thinking, I'm going to run this officer over. I'm actually not inclined to believe that. What I think is far more likely is that she was frantic. Her mind was ahead of her body. Her adrenaline was doing what adrenaline does. She wasn't thinking about throttle pressure or traction or who was standing exactly where. She just wanted to leave, and I understand that. But here's the hard truth that people don't like. Intent does not always control self-defense analysis. Actions do. And her actions, regardless of what she meant internally, communicated something very specific to everyone around her. They communicated urgency. They communicated disregard for obstacles. They communicated, I'm leaving and I'm not stopping. Now, put yourself in the officer's position. It's snowing. There's ice on the ground. Traction is compromised. You're standing directly in front of a vehicle. You hear the engine rev. You hear the tire spin. The vehicle starts moving. You do not get time to psychoanalyze her mindset. You don't get to pause and say, well, maybe she's just panicking, because if you're wrong, you're dead. And this is the part that people refuse to confront honestly. Even if she didn't want to hurt him, even if she just wanted to escape, if he sidesteps and slips on ice, she's still going. Not because she's malicious, but because panic doesn't stop on command. Momentum doesn't care about intent. And this brings us to the question nobody wants to answer. What is the officer supposed to do? Is he supposed to wait until he's under the front tire before he reacts? Is he
So, just to give you guys a brief commentary on the video, first things first, RIP to the victim who passed away. Moment of silence. As I get into the video, I always tell you guys, once you are traveling, you really have to be careful with your surroundings. A lot of the times you're going to travel out of the country, you're going to travel out of the state, you're going to travel to your near city, but you got to be careful. If you see harm's way, anything dangerous, you just have to find a way to get away from there, just because a lot of the times people who are working are in a high stress environment. People who are traveling, you're also stressed out, and then you could meet each other and it could be a lot of head buckles, but you have to understand that wherever you're going, you have to follow the law. If you don't follow the law, there will be consequences and repercussions. Unfortunately, in this situation, the law was broken by the law, and they're going to be protected by the law, if that makes sense. Number two, always tell your loved ones whenever you leave the house, I love you, I care about you, I'll see you soon. You never know when your life will be taken away. So, as always, it's challenging. We live in challenging times where once we go somewhere, we want to speak our mind and let people know this is where I stand, which is you have the freedom of speech to do it, but you gotta remember, like, you got people at home who are looking after you, you got friends and family who are waiting for you. So speaking your mind is great, but there's always a consequence. Unfortunately, in this situation, both people, you could say, were wrong. From the officer, the person who was in the car was wrong. You could say she was antagonizing him. You could say he was antagonizing him. It could have been handled better, but my main thing is just whenever you travel, you got to be careful. You got to move differently. And sometimes you just have to if you see a fire in front of you, you just got to let it go. You don't have to be the person to always try to put out the fire, because sometimes we might end up getting burned by the fire, if that makes sense. Let's continue and watch the video.
Supposed to confirm her intentions by risking his life? Because that's not how self-defense works. Self-defense is not purely reactive. It's not wait until the worst thing happens and then respond. Self-defense lives in a space just before catastrophe. Preemptive and reactive force overlap. If someone is winding up to strike you with a bat, you don't have to wait for your skull to crack before you defend yourself. If someone is charging you with a knife, you don't have to wait until the knife is in your chest. And if someone is accelerating a 5,000-pound vehicle while you're standing in front of it, you don't have to wait until you're on the pavement underneath it. That's the space this incident lives in. Now, let's be honest, this is not a perfect self-defense scenario. It is imperfect as hell. It's messy, it's chaotic. It's happening in seconds, not minutes. I can understand someone saying, maybe he could have stepped to the side. And to a degree he did, but she still made contact with the vehicle. And I can also understand someone saying, maybe he could have just let her go and dealt with it later. Yeah, assuming everything was perfect. I see all of those arguments and I understand where people are coming from, but self-defense is not about perfection. It's about what a reasonable person would do when facing a potentially lethal threat under bad conditions. A vehicle becomes a deadly weapon the moment it is used this way. It doesn't matter whether the person driving means for it to be one. A 5,000-pound object moving towards a human being on ice is capable of killing them. Full stop. And the officer didn't get the luxury of hindsight. He didn't get slow motion replay. He didn't get commentary. He didn't get to read her mind. All he had were actions. And her actions communicated danger. This is what people mean when they say self-defense isn't clean. It's not cinematic. It's not morally tidy. It doesn't come with certainty, but it does come with responsibility on both sides. Her panic does not make her evil, but it also does not make her actions harmless. And the officer's response does not have to be flawless to be justified. This is why I keep coming back to the same question over and over again. Strip everything else away. Not politics, not emotion, not ideology. Was the officer facing a reasonable possibility of serious bodily harm or death in that moment? If the answer is yes, and based on the facts, it is, then this is self-defense. It's not perfect. It's not something to celebrate. It's not something anyone should be happy about, but it's still self-defense. What happened here was a tragedy. A woman lost her life, and that matters. And do you really honestly think that cop is celebrating the fact that he had to shoot that woman? Come on, people, let's be people. But tragedy does not automatically mean injustice. Sometimes tragedy is what happens when fear, panic, and bad decisions collide in a matter of seconds. And pretending otherwise doesn't make us more compassionate. It just makes us dishonest about how violence, stress, and human beings actually work. That's the conversation we should be having. Not the easy one, the honest one. One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture.
All right, guys, as we come to the end of that video, I will continue to emphasize, I'll continue to push you guys to, whenever you are traveling, just be aware. Be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of good things that are happening. Be aware of bad things that are happening. Just watch. If you see something crazy going on, try to go the other way. And let's try not to be the hero of a situation, because trying to be a hero could go bad. Number two, just remember that if you're going up against the law, unfortunately, like, you're not gonna win, because whatever they do, they are protected. It's gonna be their word versus yours, no matter what. So I mean, it's okay to speak your mind, but remember, when you're in a place where you're probably outnumbered, I would just let the law be the law. Do what they gotta do. As always, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, and remember, please, please remember, when you're traveling, watch your surroundings, be safe, obey the law. Let the law win, because if you go against the law, you're just not gonna win. Until next time, like, comment, subscribe to the channel as we continue to do more travel reaction review video.